I used to think silence meant peace. Turns out it can mean erasure. It started with a message, a soft lie wrapped in fake warmth. Hey, sweetie, we're canceling Thanksgiving this year. Things are tight, but we'll do something next month. Love you. It was from Dad. Michael, to be specific, I've stopped calling him Dad in my head. I stared at the screen for a long time. No anger, no tears, just an ache. Familiar DD. One I'd worn for years like an old coat, handed down from childhood, never quite fitting right. Still, I didn't question it. Not right away. That's the problem when your family constantly makes you doubt your own instincts. You learn to second guess even the weight in your gut. I told myself maybe it was true. Maybe things were bad. I even considered driving over with leftovers, drop-off style. You know, kind, helpful, like I always am. But something in me, something quiet and stubborn, said, go see for yourself. So I did. Their street was glowing, literally, warm lights in the windows, laughter trailing into the cold November night. And their driveway? Crowded? Samantha's Lexus, Ethan's dusty pickup, cars I didn't even recognize. I parked across the street, hands stiff on the wheel. It was like watching someone else's memory, the version of my family where I never existed. Inside, the dining table groaned with food, turkey, candied yams, Dad's second wife's cornbread. And in the middle of it all, the center of this picture-perfect postcard, my family. My entire family. No one had canceled anything. They just canceled me. I rang the doorbell before I realized I had. Michael opened it. His face flickered, something between surprise and irritation. Chloe, what are you doing here? I wanted to scream, but I'd done that before, and it never worked. So I just said, I got your message. About Thanksgiving. His face rearranged itself into practiced calm. Oh, right. We meant we were canceling. With you. Samantha invited a few friends. Ethan brought Liam. It's a full house. A full house. Except for the daughter who helped cover their mortgage 3 months ago. Who fixed the water heater. Who babysat Liam every time Ethan needed me time. I guess I didn't count. I am family, I whispered, but it sounded ridiculous, like I was trying to convince someone I was real. He shifted awkwardly. Of course you are. Behind him, I could see the others staring. Samantha raised a wine glass at me, a mock toast, like she was saying, see what happens when you show up uninvited. I turned around, didn't say goodbye, didn't cause a scene, didn't cry. I just walked back to my car, hands shaking. Not from rage, from recognition. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd excluded me. And they weren't even sorry. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember the quiet, not the peaceful kind. The kind that hums behind your ribs like a warning, like your body knows before your mind does that something sacred just cracked open. I sat in the dark in my apartment, coat still on, keys still in my hand, staring at nothing. The image of the dinner, the candles, the soft laughter, the warmth I wasn't welcome in, looped in my head like a cruel lullaby. And then came the memories. Not loud ones, just fragments. Little betrayals that used to feel normal. My high school art exhibit, Samantha's internship announcement stole the spotlight. The time I got promoted at work, Ethan accidentally broke his wrist that same night. And somehow I ended up babysitting Liam for a week. My birthday last year? Forgotten. I got a group text a day late. Oops. Thought it was next week. Every time I brought something up, I was too sensitive. It's not a big deal. Chloe, don't make it about you. Can't you just be happy for your siblings? So I learned how to shrink. How to take up as little space as possible, hoping they'd love me more if I didn't ask for anything. But they never loved me more. They just used me more. 3 years of helping with bills. 2 years of driving Liam to school while Ethan found himself. Last week, I put down a deposit on a used SUV for them. Dad said their van was dying. I wanted to surprise them for Christmas. Turns out, I was the surprise. The backup plan. The bank. The one they remembered only when it was inconvenient to forget me. I stared at my phone. Fingers hovered over the contact labeled used car. Gary. I called. He sounded chipper. Chloe. You sure you don't want the red one? Still holding the gray? I need to cancel. Something's come up. My voice didn't even shake. He paused. You were so excited to surprise your dad. Plans change, I said. He won't be needing it anymore. I hung up, deleted the text thread, like cutting a lifeline no one else was even holding. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I let myself feel angry. Not the kind that lashes out. The kind that builds like storm clouds over the version of yourself you used to be. The one that kept saying, maybe next time they'll see me. But they never saw me. Because they never looked. The calls started the next morning. First it was Michael. I won't say dad anymore, not out loud. His voice on my voicemail was calm. Too calm. Like he'd practiced it. Chloe, your stepmother's worried. Why did you leave like that? No explanation, no goodbye. Call us back. I didn't. Because what do you even say to someone who looked you in the eyes and still chose to pretend you weren't part of their family? Then came Samantha, ever the golden girl. Her text was surgical. Not sure what happened last night, but you really overreacted. Hope you're okay. No sorry. No, we should have invited you. Just passive guilt wrapped in emojis. I stared at it for a while before muting her thread. Ethan followed suit in his usual way, louder, lazier, less filtered. He actually had the nerve to call me at work. Chloe? Seriously? It was just a dinner. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Was it? I asked. My voice was even. Tired. Yeah. I mean, no one meant to hurt you. We just didn't think you'd care. That line hit harder than I expected. We didn't think you'd care. Funny. I cared enough to help cover Ethan's rent last winter when he blew his freelance budget on concert tickets. I cared enough to buy Liam's winter coat because Ethan forgot. I cared every single time. I watched them prioritize everyone but me. But sure, I didn't care. You know, I said slowly, that's the problem. You all made so many assumptions about what I felt, what I needed, and never once bothered to ask. He sighed. Are you seriously turning this into a thing? I'm seriously done, I said. That's what this is. And I hung up. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor with my phone on Do Not Disturb, wrapped in a blanket. I crocheted myself last fall. One of the few things in my life made entirely for me, by me. I thought maybe the silence would bring guilt or sadness. Instead, it brought air, space, freedom. By Friday, I'd missed our traditional Sunday dinner planning group chat. I didn't answer, so Saturday morning Michael called again. I answered this time. Where the hell have you been? He barked. Everyone's worried sick. No, they're not, I said calmly. They're annoyed I stopped playing my part. Your part? What part? Oh, you know, chauffeur, bank, babysitter, silent seat filler. Don't be dramatic. Don't gaslight me. There was a long pause. Samantha's organizing a brunch next week, he said, shifting gears. Just family? We'd like you to come. Would you like me to come? I asked. Or would you like to look good in front of extended family again? He didn't answer. Exactly, I said. I'm not coming. That evening, Aunt Nancy, the diplomat of the family, reached out. She sent a voice message, trying to sound gentle. Honey, I know things feel heated right now, but family fights all the time. Don't throw everything away over one mistake. I hit play, listened to her soft-spoken concern, and felt nothing. Because it wasn't one mistake. It was a lifetime of small exclusions, invisible cuts, and emotional IOUs I never signed up for. They only wanted me to stay silent, to nod, to bake the pie, to smile at the camera, even if I wasn't in the frame. Then Samantha tried the fake olive branch. She invited me for coffee. Just us. I agreed, just to see if she'd say it. Sorry, that's all I needed. But when I showed up at the cafe, she was already mid-sip, sunglasses perched perfectly in her blow-dried hair. "You look tired," she said by way of hello. I smiled. "You look exactly like someone who would say that." She blinked, then recovered with a smirk. "So, can we talk?" I nodded. She leaned in. "Look, I get it. You felt left out. That sucks. But you didn't have to be so cold. You ghosted everyone." "I didn't ghost," I said. "I disengaged." "Same thing." "No," I said. "Ghosting is avoidance. Disengaging is protection." She tilted her head. "From what?" "Us. From a family that only remembers me when I'm useful." "That's not true. You invited your yoga instructor to Thanksgiving. She's basically family." I laughed. "I couldn't help it. And I'm basically invisible." By the time I got home, I had a headache. Not from the noise, from the restraint. I lit a candle, opened my journal, and wrote a single sentence. "They don't want me healed. They want me obedient." Sunday came, and I didn't go. I stayed home, made pancakes, let the syrup drip without guilt. Michael called again. I ignored it. Then Liam, sweet, unknowing Liam, left a message. "Aunt Chloe, Daddy says you're mad, but I miss you. Are you still coming to my holiday play?" I sat with that one. He didn't deserve the fallout, but he also didn't deserve to learn that love means overextending yourself until your soul frays. I wrote him a letter, handwritten, simple. "Dear Liam, I love you so much. I'll always be cheering for you, even if you don't see me in the crowd. But Aunt Chloe is taking some space right now. It's not your fault. You're wonderful. Never forget that." I mailed it the next morning. No return address. A few days later, Ethan texted, "Can you watch Liam this weekend?" Sam bailed. I replied, "I have plans. Good luck." No apology, no explanation, just a boundary. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt whole. By Thursday, the messages slowed. Not because they understood, but because they were recalibrating, trying to figure out how to spin the story now that I wasn't playing along. And I knew what was coming next. The martyrdom, the twisted versions, the narrative that I was the unstable one, the difficult one. But I was ready. Let them write their fiction. I'd already started living my truth. The irony is they never liked the sound of my voice. But now that it's gone, now that the replies have stopped and the calls go unanswered, suddenly, it's all they want to hear. 2 weeks after I walked away, they changed tactics. At first, it was noise. Michael's voice on my work voicemail, the only number he still had access to, deep and clipped. "This behavior is unacceptable. Your stepmother is heartbroken. This isn't how we raised you." I played the message twice, once for context, once for confirmation that, no, he really believed he was the injured party. I didn't call back. I didn't erase the message either. I kept it like a fossil, evidence of how well they'd convinced themselves their emotional neglect was love. Then came Ethan. He used a number I hadn't blocked yet. I was running out of area codes. "Seriously, Chloe? You're doing all this for attention? You missed one dinner." I didn't answer, but I typed out a message and let it sit in my drafts. "You didn't miss me. You missed my time, my money, my silence." I never sent it. Not because I was scared, but because I no longer needed to explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. Samantha showed up at my apartment. Uninvited. She buzzed 3 times before I finally looked out the window. She had her sunglasses on again, as if the world couldn't touch her, if she just shaded it out. When I opened the door, barely, chain still on, she smiled like this was brunch. "You've made your point, Chloe. Can we stop the theatrics now?" I blinked. "Thanksgiving's over. It's Christmas now. Let's not ruin another holiday." I studied her. Same perfect hair, same casual condescension in her tone, like she couldn't comprehend the fact that someone might finally have boundaries. "Samantha," I said softly, "I'm not making a point. I'm making a life. You can't just cut everyone off." "Why not?" "Because we're family." "Exactly." I closed the door, didn't slam it, didn't raise my voice, just turned the lock and walked away. And that silence, It rang louder than any argument we'd ever had. Aunt Nancy tried next. She mailed me a box. Inside, childhood photos. A birthday card I'd made her when I was 7. A crocheted owl I'd forgotten I'd even stitched. Taped to the inside of the box was a note. Family is all we have in the end. Don't burn your bridge with pride. Pride. As if refusing to be used was vanity. As if setting boundaries was a flaw. I put the photos in a drawer. I held the owl for a long while. Tiny, lopsided, handmade proof of a girl who just wanted to be loved out loud. I kept the owl. The rest went back in the box, unopened, unacknowledged. The final assault came from Michael himself. He showed up, not to say sorry, not to take accountability. He came to correct me. I heard the knock first, hard, angry, no rhythm, no patience. Chloe, open this door. I looked through the peephole. There he was, aging but still postured like a patriarch. I know you're in there. I didn't move. You're acting like a child. The same line he used when I cried at 13, because Samantha got the family locket and I got a pat on the head. The same line he said when Ethan wrecked my car and I was too upset about it. The same line he used when I asked, gently, if we could maybe take turns hosting Christmas for once. You're being selfish, he said now, outside my apartment. And all I could think was, I finally am. And it feels incredible. After 10 minutes, he left a note under my door. I read it once. You've made your point, but enough is enough. Come back before it's too late. I folded it in half, then in quarters, then dropped it in the trash, right on top of last week's uneaten turkey sandwich. They didn't stop. They just switched voices. Ethan messaged me again. Dad's not feeling well. Are you happy now? Maybe next time you'll think twice before ghosting your family. Noah would have panicked, called a hospital, cried into a scarf, shown up with soup and shame. But Chloe? Chloe texted back. If he's unwell, he should see a doctor. I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then I blocked him. One more string, cut. They called me selfish, unstable, dramatic, a cautionary tale in their little gossipy dinner parties. The daughter who turned her back for no good reason. But here's the truth. I didn't turn my back. I finally stopped bending. At work, my boss asked if everything was okay. You seem lighter lately, she said. And I smiled genuinely because it was true. I was lighter. I wasn't checking my phone every 10 minutes to make sure I hadn't missed a guilt trip. I wasn't driving 2 hours to show up for a family that never noticed when I was there. I wasn't scanning their faces for signs of approval I'd never receive. Instead, I started buying fresh flowers every Sunday. I started walking after work, listening to music that made me feel like something was possible. I picked up the language app I'd abandoned, started cooking for myself again, just for me. No one clapped. No one posted it to the family group chat. No one said, "We're so proud of you." And still, it felt more satisfying than any hollow praise I'd ever scraped from their table. Retaliation doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like a woman finally realizing that being excluded from dysfunction isn't punishment. It's freedom. It's been 6 months. No calls, no texts. Not from Michael, not from Samantha, not from Ethan. Silence, the same kind I used to fear. Now, it's music. I wish I could say they reached out with some profound apology, that someone finally saw me. But they didn't. They never do. What they did do was rewrite the story. According to mutual friends and my ever-vigilant coworker Marla, who just happened to see Samantha's latest Facebook post, I'm now the troubled one, the emotionally unstable sister, the one who had a breakdown over a dinner invitation. Apparently, I need prayers and patience. Apparently, I'm the villain. And honestly, let them have it. Let them keep their curated narrative, their fragile hierarchy, their golden child fantasies and martyrdom monologues. I'm done auditioning for a role I never asked to play. The thing no one tells you about walking away is that grief still shows up. even when you know you made the right choice. It creeps in during quiet moments, like when you pass a family in the park and wonder what it would have been like to have Sunday picnics that didn't end in cold shoulders or subtle jabs. It stings when you get a work award and instinctively glance at your phone, not to share the news, but to wish you had someone worth telling. It lingers in the way you still pause at the store when you see Liam's favorite snack on sale. Before you remind yourself, you're not responsible for raising someone else's child anymore. But the grief, it fades. And what replaces it is grace, not for them. For me, I started therapy a month after the fallout. At first, I walked in like someone going through customs, polite, cautious, declaring nothing. But my therapist, Lena, didn't ask me to justify my family. She just asked, "When did you start believing you didn't deserve care?" And that cracked something open. We talked about invisibility, about being the helpful daughter, the one who never needed much, the one who could be skipped over without protest. We unpacked how I kept mistaking usefulness for love, how my silence was never peace, just my trauma playing dead. One session, I said, "I don't think they ever saw me." Lena tilted her head. "Do you see you? That one hit hard." So I started rebuilding. Nothing dramatic, no big trips, no Instagram makeovers, just quiet wins. I finished the language course I'd abandoned, took myself out to dinner for the first time in years, and didn't bring a book or look at my phone. I just existed. Started drawing again, not for Etsy, not for approval, just for me. I donated the SUV deposit to a local women's shelter. It felt right. Helping someone who wanted help, who didn't see kindness as a currency, but as a gift. I made new friends, real ones, people who don't keep score, who text just to ask if I've eaten, who notice when I get a haircut or cancel plans and say, "Want to talk?" My circle isn't big, but it's enough. One night, I hosted a small dinner. 5 of us crammed into my tiny living room, laughing over mismatched plates. It wasn't perfect. The rice was dry. Someone spilled wine on the rug, but no one made me feel like an inconvenience. Afterward, as I loaded dishes into the sink, I caught myself smiling. Not performatively, just fully. It was the kind of peace you don't brag about online, because it would never translate in pixels. The kind that sits in your chest like warmth, not pressure. The last message I ever got from Michael was a voicemail. I played it only once. "You'll regret this someday. We're still a family, even if you've forgotten." I deleted it halfway through. Because no, I haven't forgotten. I remember everything. I remember birthdays missed, milestones ignored. The way Samantha got the locket, and I got the guilt trip. The way Ethan always got rescued, and I always got repurposed. I remember how often I was told to be quiet, be grateful, be flexible. I remember how they cropped me out of photos, but still asked for money to frame the prints. And I remember Thanksgiving, standing outside a warm room I helped fund, not invited to enter. So no, I haven't forgotten, and I won't forgive what they refuse to admit. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not holding the weight of their denial or chasing the mirage of their approval. I'm not waiting for an apology that won't come or trying to decode the silence between sentences. I've stopped trying to prove I deserved love, because I always did. And now, I've given it to myself. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I still think about Liam. He was innocent, a casualty of adult cowardice. If he ever finds his way to me one day, curious, older, asking why I vanished, I'll tell him the truth. Not the sugar-coated version, not the villainized version, just this. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I started loving me. So here I am, still Chloe, still standing, still soft, but no longer silent. And if you're reading this, and you've ever been the invisible one, the backup, the emotional sponge, the reliable ghost, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're not dramatic. You're tired, and it's okay to rest. It's okay to walk away from a table that always feeds you scraps. It's okay to stop setting yourself on fire just to keep people warm who wouldn't even light a candle for you. You deserve more. You deserve to be chosen. Not when it's convenient. Not when they need something. Not when guilt runs high and image is at stake. You deserve to be chosen every damn day. By yourself, first and forever. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped carrying it. And I've never walked lighter. Story 2. My name's Riley. I'm 23, just graduated with a degree in finance. And this is a story about the house. My mom left me, and how I had to fight to keep it. When I was 9, my dad left. No dramatic exit, no messy court battles. One morning he just stopped being there, and by the following week, he'd moved in with someone else. Her name was Susan. She was polished, warm in that performative way, and had a daughter named Emily, 10 years younger than me. My mom and I, we made it work. She was a senior auditor, sharp as hell, and when cancer hit, she still managed to out-organize most healthy people. We found out she was sick when I was 14. She fought for 4 years before she passed away when I was 18, right before I left for college. She left me the house, fully paid off, deeded in my name. She made it clear, this is yours. No one can take it from you. For a while, I believed that. After the funeral, I was a mess, barely functioning. I don't remember calling my dad, but somehow, he, Susan, and little Emily moved in to help. I didn't question it. I needed the support, or at least I thought I did. They were kind, for a while. My dad even hugged me once and said, "Let us take care of you for a bit." It wasn't until that summer, right before college, that Dad proposed they stay in the house while I was away. "We'll cover bills. Keep the place maintained," he said. Coffee in hand, like this was just some practical transaction. Susan smiled from the kitchen, Emily bouncing around in the background, already calling my old room hers. And you know what? I said yes. I boxed up my mom's things, kept what mattered, and left the rest in the attic. I headed off to school thinking, okay, this is good. It's temporary. It wasn't. Every break I came back. At first, they were weirdly welcoming. Susan made my favorite chicken Alfredo. Emily showed me her drawings like we were real siblings. There were game nights, holiday lights, even inside jokes. I wasn't just visiting, I was family. Or at least that's how it felt. We fell into a rhythm. I'd FaceTime once a week. Dad would talk about yard work. Susan would ask about my classes. Emily would pop in to show off her latest school project. It was almost enough to convince me that the past hadn't happened, that we were a new version of what I lost. By my final year, I'd lined up a job at a reputable investment firm back in my hometown. It felt like everything had come full circle. I was coming home for good, or so I thought. It was a bright June afternoon when the taxi dropped me off. My house looked different. Same front yard, but the bushes were trimmed into shapes my mom would have hated. New curtains in the windows. Little decorative stones lining the garden bed. Nothing huge, but enough to make my stomach twist. I wheeled my suitcase to the door. Reached for the key. It didn't fit. Tried again. Nothing. I knocked, confused. Maybe they'd changed the locks and forgot to mention it? Susan opened the door. Apron on. Flour on her hands. She stared at me like I was an unexpected guest, not the homeowner. "Riley? What are you doing here?" I stepped inside, dragging my suitcase past her. "What do you mean? I live here. Remember?" Dad looked up from the living room. Emily was on the couch, scrolling her phone. Both of them stared like I was interrupting something. Dad scratched the back of his neck. "We changed the locks. There were a few break-ins nearby. Meant to tell you." "You meant to tell me?" I repeated, voice rising. Susan stepped in. "We just didn't expect you so soon. You should have called. I literally told you I was graduating and moving back. Weeks ago." Silence. Then Dad cleared his throat. "Can we talk? In the office?" We walked into what used to be my mom's office. Her books were still there untouched. He closed the door behind us. "There's something you should know," he started. "That's never a good sign." He looked nervous, like a man walking into his own sentencing. Susan thinks, the house is mine. I told her I gave it to your mother during the divorce, but that after she passed, it reverted back to me. I stared at him. You told her this house isn't mine? She doesn't know about the will, or that your mom bought it before we even got married. Why? I asked, jaw clenched. He looked away. She wouldn't understand, and I didn't want to cause tension. Oh, now you care about tension. He handed me a set of keys. Please, just give me a few weeks. Let me ease her into it. I took the keys, but my faith in him, that was gone. Dinner was tense. Susan smiled too much. Emily avoided eye contact. My favorite family photo had disappeared from the wall, replaced by an abstract print. The next morning, Susan cornered me in the kitchen. I think it's time you started looking for your own place, she said casually, like she was suggesting I try oat milk. I blinked. Excuse me? You have a job lined up. You're an adult. It's time, I calmly replied. Dad and I already discussed it. I'll be staying here. She didn't respond, just walked away, her robe swishing behind her like she was royalty. Over the next 2 weeks, she made it her personal mission to make me feel unwelcome. Laundry got mixed up and ruined. Meals were made for 3. The guest towels vanished. She moved my mom's urn into a dusty cabinet. Emily followed suit. No more movie nights. She started calling me that girl on the phone, loud enough for me to hear. But I stayed focused. I had a job to start. I was home, legally and emotionally, or so I told myself. One Saturday I woke up and the house was silent. No clinking dishes, no blaring music from Emily's room, no dad watching golf. Even their cars were gone. Weird. I texted, called. No answer. Finally, I called Susan. She answered like she'd been waiting for it. Oh, you noticed? Where are you? Bahamas. First class. Ocean view. Surprise. My heart dropped. She laughed. We didn't invite you. Didn't want to pay for a freeloader. I gripped the counter, shaking. You don't live here, Riley. You're just squatting in a house that was never really yours. You want to play homeowner? Do it somewhere else. When we get back, I want you gone. Click. That was it. Not even an ounce of shame. I stood there, in the kitchen my mom once made pancakes in, and realized I was done playing nice. They wanted to act like this was their house? Fine. They could pack up and leave it. And that's exactly what I planned to make happen. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or rage around the kitchen. I just sat there, staring at the spot where my mom used to keep the cookie jar. It was gone now, probably tossed, when Susan decided the kitchen needed a refresh. The silence in that moment? Heavy. But so was the clarity. They were in the Bahamas, living it up, sipping margaritas. I was home in my house after 4 years of working my butt off at school, and they had the nerve to call me a squatter? No, I wasn't going to let that slide. First thing I did was call a locksmith. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. The guy showed up in cargo shorts and mirrored sunglasses, asking no questions. I just said, I need every lock changed. All of them. He nodded and got to work. While he drilled and rekeyed, I packed. Not my stuff. Theirs. Susan's boutique handbags, her endless makeup trays, her curated bathroom setups like this was some kind of lifestyle blog. All of it boxed. Emily's piles of clothes, notebooks, her weird lamp shaped like a cat, into plastic tubs, Dad's golf clubs, his model plane collection, his slippers that always sat by the couch like museum artifacts, bagged and labeled. By the time the locksmith handed me the new set of keys, the garage looked like a sad thrift store, stacks of their life, neatly sealed, waiting to be picked up. I didn't text them, didn't call. They'd made it clear I wasn't worth the courtesy. I went to work that Monday like nothing had happened. Marshall and company had a sleek little corner office waiting for me, and everyone in the department was friendly in that polite, we don't really know each other yet, but we'll smile anyway kind of way. I was learning the ropes. I liked the routine, liked coming home to a quiet house, eating frozen pizza on the porch and feeling safe. Until Friday. That's when they came back. I pulled into the driveway and saw them standing there. Dad was pale. Susan looked like she was about to breathe fire. Emily stood behind them with crossed arms and a dramatic scowl, like she'd been cast in a teen soap opera. Before I could even kill the engine, Susan was at my window, pounding the glass. "You locked us out? Are you out of your damn mind?" I stepped out calmly, holding my purse like a shield. "You're trespassing," I said. "Take your stuff and go." Dad raised his hands, trying to defuse the situation. "Can we just talk inside?" "No," I said. "This conversation happens on the lawn." Susan scoffed. "This is our home." "It's my house," I snapped. "Mom bought it. She put it in my name. You were guests, temporary guests. And now, your stay is over." She blinked like I'd slapped her. Dad rubbed his temples. "Riley, sweetheart." "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't sweetheart me. You let her believe this place was yours. You watched her decorate over Mom's memory. And you said nothing." Susan stepped forward again, switching tactics. "You're being emotional. We've shared this home for 4 years." "No," I said. "I visited during breaks." "You moved in. Big difference. You can't do this," she hissed. "I can. I did. Your things are in the garage. I even labeled the boxes." Emily muttered. "This is so unfair." I looked her dead in the eye. "You called me a freeloader on a call with your friend. I heard it." She had the nerve to look embarrassed. Susan turned back to Dad. "Say something." He looked at the sky, at his shoes, at anything but me. Finally, he mumbled, "She's right." And just like that, the fight drained out of her. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. They spent the next hour hauling boxes into the trunk of their rental car. Susan cursed under her breath the entire time. Emily cried. Dad didn't say a word. They left as the sun started to dip behind the trees. I watched from the living room window. Curtains parted just enough to see their taillights disappear down the road. And then, I sat down. Mom's chair, her actual chair, was still there. Susan had tried to get rid of it once, but I'd stopped her. And now, it was back in its rightful place. I sat, exhaled, and just let the quiet settle. For the first time in weeks, the house felt like mine again. That weekend, I restored everything. Pulled Mom's old pictures out of the attic, rehung her favorite painting in the hallway, put her casserole dish back in the kitchen cabinet where it belonged. I even replanted her rose bushes out front. Susan had ripped them out years ago to put in easier to maintain shrubs, but I found the same variety online. It felt symbolic. I didn't hear from them for a few days. Then, late Wednesday night, my phone lit up with a text. "Unknown number, Riley, it's Dad. Please. Can we talk?" I let it sit. He called the next morning. I ignored it. He left a voicemail, voice trembling, asking me to be reasonable. I wasn't interested. You don't get to lie for 4 years and ask for grace when the truth finally costs you something. It's been a few weeks since they left. The house is quiet again, peaceful. My job's going well. I've made a couple of friends at the office. I go on walks after work, cook dinner for one, and sometimes I'll sit on the back porch and just listen to the wind rustle through the trees. Mom would have loved this. Sometimes I think about Dad, about Emily, even Susan in a weird, distant way. Wonder where they ended up. Wonder if they're still blaming me, or if they finally realized they pushed too far. But I don't lose sleep over it. I already gave them years of my life, years of silence and compromise, and trying to be the good daughter. I'm done with that now. This house, it's mine. And for the first time since Mom passed, I actually believe that. It's funny, the quiet. You'd think I'd get lonely living alone after everything that went down. But I didn't. Not once. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was clean, uncluttered, like I'd scrubbed years of tension off the walls and finally remembered how to breathe again. I stopped flinching when I walked past the kitchen, half expecting Susan to lecture me about putting the toaster in the wrong spot. There were no eye rolls from Emily. No more whispers between her and Dad that cut off the second I walked into a room. The house felt like it exhaled with me. My job at Marshall and Company was solid. Early mornings, spreadsheets, back-to-back team meetings. Nothing glamorous, but it gave my days structure. The kind of rhythm I hadn't realized I craved after 4 years of dorms, cafeterias, and group projects. And my coworkers? Surprisingly normal. No office politics. No drama. Just people trying to make a living and get through the week. There was one woman, Mariah, who became a regular lunch buddy. She was sharp, sarcastic, and somehow always found the worst dating stories on the planet. I never told her everything. Not at first. Just little things, like how I was repainting my house, or that I'd had some unexpected guests who overstayed their welcome. She nodded once and said, "Ah, grown-up freeloaders. I know the type." I liked her instantly. Dad kept trying to reach out. He didn't use his old number anymore. He rotated through burner lines like a desperate telemarketer. Always the same message, please. "Can we talk?" Sometimes he left voicemails. "Riley, I messed up. I know I did. But you locking us out, that hurt. We're still family. Family. That word again. People love throwing it around like it's supposed to fix everything. But family isn't just blood. It's not about holiday cards or group photos. It's who shows up when it's hard. Who tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Who protects you, not uses you. And for years, Dad had chosen silence. That was his loudest message. I didn't block him. I just didn't answer. Letting his words float out into the digital void felt more powerful than screaming ever could. Emily eventually sent a message too. One line, no punctuation, "Hope you're happy now." I didn't respond. Because honestly, I was. I started working on the house. Not big stuff, just small, intentional changes. Things that made it feel like mine again. I painted the guest room a soft green. Replaced the dated curtains with warm linen panels. I went to a local thrift market one Saturday and found a vintage lamp that reminded me of the one Mom kept in her reading nook. Took it home without a second thought. Some evenings, I'd walk into that room, turn on the lamp, and sit in silence. No music, no TV, just the soft glow and the sound of the neighborhood winding down. Healing doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it's quiet, gentle, a slow layering of peace over chaos. I found an envelope one day in the back of a kitchen drawer, one I hadn't touched since moving back. Inside was a letter from my mom, dated 6 months before she passed. I hadn't seen it before. Must have slipped through the cracks when I was boxing things up for college. The handwriting was unmistakable, neat, precise, with that little loop in every Y that only she did. "Riley, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I hate that I have to leave you with so many hard things. But I need you to remember this. You are strong, even when you don't feel it. And this house, it's yours. Your anchor. Don't let anyone make you small in it." I sat down on the floor and cried like I hadn't cried since the funeral. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt seen again. A few weeks later, I got an email from a mutual connection, one of Susan's friends who used to send out those corny holiday newsletters. She didn't say much, just a vague, "Heard you had a rough go. Hope things are better now. You were always the most grounded of the bunch." I didn't reply, but I did smile, grounded. I liked that. You know what's strange? I stopped checking my phone so much. The need for closure, for some final apology or confession, it faded. I didn't need it. I already had what I came for. I had truth. I had peace. And I had a future that wasn't waiting on anyone's permission. My weekends were no longer filled with dodging passive-aggressive remarks. I spent them in the garden, reading, cooking things I'd never tried before. I burned a batch of cinnamon rolls once and laughed so hard, I cried. No one was watching. No one to judge. Just me, in my kitchen, finally comfortable in my own life. Sometimes at night, I stand at the kitchen window and look out at the backyard. The porch light flickers a little, but I don't mind. The roses are blooming again. The ones I planted in place of Susan's ugly gravel bed. They smell exactly like the ones Mom used to grow. They're not perfect, a little crooked, a few petals chewed by bugs, but they're thriving. And honestly, so am I. 3 months passed. No surprise knock on the door. No begging at the curb. Just distance. Long and quiet, like an old river that finally changed course. Dad still tried now and then. A text here. A voicemail there. Always some version of I miss you or we didn't mean it like that. But you can't unmean 4 years of lies. You can't undo pretending I didn't exist when it was convenient. And I wasn't interested in rewriting the past just to make them feel better about it. I think people assume forgiveness is some loud, dramatic moment. But for me, it was silent. Just a shift. One day, I heard his voicemail and felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, just space. That's when I knew I didn't hate him anymore. I just didn't know him anymore. Life moved on. I joined a weekend hiking group. Nothing intense, just a bunch of people who liked being outside and didn't feel like pretending to be someone else. I met a woman named Jules, mid-30s, graphic designer. She'd grown up with 6 siblings and had cut off half of them. You learn, she told me once, as we sat by a creek, that blood makes you related. But love? That's the part you get to choose. I nodded. I didn't have to explain anything. She already knew. Back home, the house kept shifting. I bought a used bookshelf and filled it with things that felt like me. Financial thrillers, old nature guides, and a tiny ceramic fox I found at a flea market. Mom would have teased me about the fox, called it whimsical with that raised eyebrow of hers. I smiled just thinking about it. Some nights, I lit a candle and sat on the porch. No music, just the wind in the trees, the creak of the swing, and the smell of fresh soil from the garden beds I built with my own hands. That peace? I earned it. Then one Friday morning, I got a letter. Real paper, real ink, no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable, my dad's. I didn't open it right away. It sat on the coffee table for 3 days. On the 4th day, I read it. Riley, you were right. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I remember everything. The first time you fell off your bike, you cried more from frustration than pain. The way you held your mom's hand at the hospital every time they drew blood. The way you smiled when we put up the Christmas lights together that last December before the divorce. I let Susan believe what she wanted because I was tired and selfish and afraid of losing another family. But I lost you anyway. I'm sorry, and I miss you. Dad, I didn't cry. I just folded the letter and tucked it into the back of Mom's cookbook. Maybe one day I'll read it again. Maybe not. People talk about revenge like it's this loud thing. But for me, it was this. Living here, breathing here, owning every inch of this space again, not out of spite, but because I belonged. I didn't throw anyone out with a screaming match. I didn't destroy anyone's reputation. I just told the truth and made them live with it. They wrote me off as an obligation, a burden, a temporary inconvenience in their made-up version of home. But the real house, the one with roots in every wall, every creaky stair, every bloom in the garden, that one was mine. From the beginning. Sometimes I think about what Mom would say if she saw all this now. The new paint, the peaceful nights, the fact that I wake up without dread in my chest. She'd probably smile and say, "Told you you'd be okay." Because she always knew. She planned for this. Not the betrayal, maybe, but the recovery, the regrowth. The moment I'd stand up, look around, and realize I didn't need anyone's permission to exist in my own life. Last week, I hosted a small dinner, just a few people from work and my hiking group. We sat on the back deck under strings of warm lights. Everyone brought something. We laughed over charred veggie skewers and overcooked rice. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. And when I cleared the table, someone pointed at the rose bushes and said, "You've got a great place here." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I really do. That's the thing about houses. They're just buildings until you reclaim them." until you walk through the front door and feel safe, until the silence feels soft instead of sharp, until you realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being whole. Story 3. I don't know if betrayal ever hits all at once. For me, it unfolded in layers, quiet, sharp cuts that didn't bleed right away. But when they did, oh, they bled deep. My name's Alex. I'm 33 now, but this story starts when I was just a teenager, still naive enough to think parents didn't pick favorites. My mom had me when she was 21. My dad, never in the picture. She told me he bolted the moment she mentioned the pregnancy, said she gave him the chance to walk away and he took it, without looking back. No child support, no awkward birthday cards, nothing. For a long time, it was just the two of us, and my grandparents, thank God for them. They helped Mom finish college and land a steady job. We weren't rich, but we were fine. Comfortable, even. I remember thinking we were a team, Mom and me against the world. Then came Neil. She met him when I was about 9. He worked in it with her. They dated for a few years, and I tried to stay out of the way. I wasn't jealous, I just didn't want to be a burden. He wasn't cruel or anything, just distant. We tolerated each other. That's probably the best word for it. They got married when I was 12. By then, Mom was already different. A little colder, a little more tired of me, but I still had hope. I mean, we'd been through so much, surely that counted for something, right? 4 years later, she gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. And just like that, the invisible wall between us became concrete. I saw it happening in slow motion. The smiles that used to be mine were now reserved for bottles and diapers. The conversations faded into "not now, Alex." The affection I used to cling to was rerouted. I tried. I really tried. I helped around the house, did my homework without being told, kept quiet when she was exhausted. But instead of appreciation, I got attitude. She looked at me like I was an obligation she regretted. 6 months after the twins were born, she and Neil sat me down. I'll never forget that night. I was 16, old enough to know when I was being gently shoved out of the nest, even if they refused to call it that. They told me they couldn't afford to keep me around anymore. Too many mouths to feed. Too little money. They didn't say you're not our priority anymore, but they didn't have to. I heard it anyway. I offered to get a job, start pulling my weight. But my mom looked me straight in the eye and said, "We need to save for the kids. They deserve it more." She didn't say they need it more. No, it was deserve. That word hit me like a slap. I didn't fight after that. What was the point? She didn't see me anymore. Not really. I packed a bag and walked out. No yelling, no tears, just quiet resignation. I went straight to my grandparents' place. They were horrified when they found out what happened, but they didn't cut my mom off. They loved the twins and didn't want to lose them too. I didn't blame them. I stayed in their spare room and got a part-time job. At 16, that's not easy, but I didn't have a choice. I wasn't going to let 2 elderly people shoulder the burden of someone else's cast-off. I worked evenings after school, weekends too. I'd come home exhausted, but at least I was earning something. At least I had control. My mom barely checked in. When she visited my grandparents, she rarely acknowledged me. It was like I was just there, a ghost in the corner of the living room. They'd coo over the twins while I sat in the kitchen with my tea, pretending not to notice how easily I'd been replaced. That was my life until college. I wanted out, not just from that house or that town, but from that whole chapter of my life. College felt like the escape route, but with no support from my mom, I had to rely on loans. One of my uncles stepped up and co-signed. Bless him. He said he believed in me, just asked that I never let the debt fall on him. I promised I wouldn't, and I didn't. I took on a part-time job and hustled through school, worked late nights at the library, skipped parties, stretched $20 across 3 days like a magician. I had to be smarter, tougher, more disciplined than most of my classmates, because failure wasn't an option. I was alone in this. When I graduated, my mom didn't show. No call, no card, not even a text. just silence. So I built my life without her. I got a job straight out of college, modest pay, but enough to get by. Shared a tiny apartment with peeling paint and unpredictable plumbing. Ate a lot of frozen meals, but I made it work. Slowly, I climbed the ladder, took promotions, switched departments, took more promotions. By the time I was 32, I was managing a team in a senior role, earning more than I'd ever dreamed possible back when I was splitting ramen 3 ways. I kept it low-key. Only a handful of people knew how well I was doing, including my uncle, the one who co-signed my loan. I owed him that honesty. Unfortunately, that's how the past came knocking. Turns out he ran into my mom and Neil at a family gathering. Harmless small talk turned into, "Oh, Alex is doing great, by the way." I'm sure he thought he was doing something nice. Instead, he handed them a roadmap to my doorstep. A week later, they showed up at my house, uninvited, standing on my porch like ghosts I'd buried years ago. And that's where this new chapter began. I wish I could say I was surprised when they showed up at my door, but deep down, I wasn't. When people like that come back around after years of silence, they're not here for love or closure. They want something. I hadn't spoken to my mom or Neil since college. Not a single message, no hey, congrats, nothing. And that was by design. I'd blocked them on everything, never invited them to anything, and stopped looking for their approval a long time ago. So when I opened the door and saw them standing there with forced smiles and uncomfortable energy, my gut said, "This isn't a visit, it's a transaction." I let them in. Not because I missed them, not because I forgave them, but because a small, stupid part of me thought maybe they were finally ready to apologize. Spoiler, they weren't. They sat down on my couch like strangers at a job interview. Neil cleared his throat. My mom crossed her legs, folded her hands, and did that thing where she tries to look composed, but her eyes are already scanning the room for signs of how well I'm doing. They didn't start with an apology. No, hey, I'm sorry for what happened. No, we've missed you. They opened with compliments about my job, my house, how proud they were, even though they hadn't been around for a single milestone. And then it came. The pitch. Turns out their tech startup failed 2 years ago, burned through their savings. They're in debt. And the twins, my half-siblings, are seniors now, about to apply for college. They were hoping I'd help pay for it. Yeah, you read that right. The same people who pushed me out at 16 because I was a financial burden were now asking me to fund the education of the kids who deserved it more. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just sat there, blinking slowly, letting their words hang in the air like smoke. I asked them calmly if they were serious, and my mom nodded, like this was the most reasonable request in the world. She said, "We just thought, given your position, you could give back a little. Make things right." Make things right? I worked 2 jobs through college, while they played house with their perfect nuclear family. I paid off my student debt 1 minimum wage paycheck at a time. I built my career from the ground up with 0 safety net. And now that I'd finally pulled myself up, they wanted to loop me back in as an ATM? I told them no. No sugarcoating, no apology. Just a straight, "I'm not doing that." They looked shocked, like they couldn't believe I'd say it out loud. Like they expected me to just roll over and thank them for the opportunity to sacrifice myself again. So I reminded them. That when I was 16, they told me I didn't deserve to stay, that they had to prioritize the twins, that they had no room left for me physically, financially, emotionally. My mom interrupted, tried to twist it, said I misunderstood, that I was too sensitive back then, that she did her best, and that's when the gaslighting started. She painted herself as the struggling single mom who had no choice, said I should have understood they were doing what they had to do, that I should have moved on by now. Neil chimed in, tried to sound rational, said, "It wasn't personal, Alex. You were almost an adult. We thought you'd be fine." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. I told them that it was personal. It was deeply personal. They didn't just stop supporting me, they erased me. Chose to start a second family and leave me behind like I never existed. And now, because things were hard, I was supposed to save the day. My mom got defensive, said I was bitter, said I was acting like I was above them. And then, with all the entitlement in the world, she said, "You owe me. I raised you alone for years. I gave up so much for you. This is your chance to repay that." And that was it. That was the moment I realized she didn't come here out of love. She came out of desperation, willing to guilt trip her way into my wallet. I stood up and told them it was time to leave. My mom tried one last push, said I was punishing the twins for something they didn't do. I told her I wasn't punishing anyone. I just wasn't rescuing them either. I barely knew the twins. I wasn't their brother. I was the kid they grew up hearing about like some ghost from mom's past. She started to cry, tried to make it a scene. Neil looked embarrassed. I didn't flinch. I walked to the door, held it open, and waited. Before stepping out, she turned and said, "You're cold. You're just like your father." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. They left. The silence after the door shut felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I just sat down on the couch and let it settle in. The past wasn't knocking anymore. It had been told to leave. A few days later, the emails started. My mom, suddenly rediscovering how to contact me, began sending long, rambling messages about everything she did for me growing up, how she struggled, how hard it was being a single mother, how much she sacrificed. She framed it like I should be grateful, like she deserved a return on investment. At first, I ignored them. Then one message crossed the line, and I replied. I told her the truth, that she was only a mother to me until it stopped being convenient, that she chose a man and his children over me, that she abandoned me before I ever walked away. And then I blocked her. She made a new email. Blocked. Another. Blocked again. That was the pattern. Her clinging to the version of me she wanted me to be guilt-ridden, obedient, willing to finance her life. Me? I was done being that version. My grandparents knew about what happened. They supported my decision completely, said they'd try to talk to her, but that they understood she probably wouldn't listen. I appreciated that. It reminded me that not everyone in my family had lost their mind. As for my uncle, the one who unintentionally tipped her off, he apologized, genuinely. Said he had no idea she was in that kind of mindset, that he never expected her to twist my success into a reason to come knocking. I believed him. He meant well, and he's the reason I even went to college. I let it go, but I made one thing clear. No one shares updates about me with her anymore. Period. The door was shut, and this time, it was locked. A week after I blocked her last email, I thought maybe that was the end of it. I was wrong. She showed up again, this time at my workplace. I wasn't even in that day. I'd taken a sick day because I wasn't feeling well, which in hindsight was probably a blessing. The receptionist called me, saying there was a woman at the front desk asking to see me. She wouldn't leave, said she was my mother. My stomach dropped. I got on the phone, tried to stay calm, told her I wasn't there. And even if I was, she had no right showing up unannounced like this. She tried to guilt trip me again, rambling about how she was forced into this, how she needed my help, how I was being cruel for ignoring her. I didn't yell, didn't curse. I just told her plain and clear. If she ever showed up at my workplace again, I would call the police and press charges. And if she thought I was bluffing, she was welcome to test me. That seemed to rattle her. She asked to meet in person instead. I said no, reminded her that whatever connection we once had was gone. And more importantly, she wasn't entitled to a single piece of my life now. After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Just me, the quiet, and a mug of cold tea I hadn't touched. That's when it hit me how deep this had gone. How she still saw me as a child she could control with tears and guilt, not a grown man who owed her nothing. But I wasn't done learning that lesson. 2 days later, I came home from work and found her sitting outside my apartment building, just waiting. She stood up as soon as I got close, Said she just wanted to talk. I didn't say a word. I told her to leave. She didn't. I pulled out my phone, told her I was calling the cops. That's when it turned ugly. She lunged at me, grabbed my arm, tried to knock the phone out of my hand, screamed that I was ungrateful, that I was ruining everything. I barely had time to react before she shoved me hard enough that I stumbled and hit the pavement. It took me a second to realize what had just happened. She stood over me, shouting, blaming me for her life falling apart, screaming that I had abandoned my family, that I was a monster, that I was selfish. Neighbors started coming out. One of them, a woman I barely knew from down the hall, rushed over and tried to get between us. Someone else was already calling the police. And me? I didn't move. I just sat there, dust on my palms, watching my mother unravel in public, watching her finally reveal who she really was. The cops arrived within minutes, took statements, put her in cuffs, and just like that, it was over. I filed charges: assault, trespassing, harassment. My lawyer helped me file for a restraining order the next day. It was granted within a week. Neil, her husband, found out and took the twins to live with his parents. Word was, he confronted her and said he wouldn't let her keep spiraling like this. They fought. He left. I haven't heard anything since, but that wasn't the part that shook me. What hit me hardest was hearing from my grandparents afterward. They told me they'd decided to cut contact with her, too. Said they were done making excuses, done pretending she just needed time to come around. She made her choice, my grandfather said, and now you've made yours. We're proud of you. That was the first time I cried, not because I was sad, but because for once, I felt seen, understood. No guilt, no shame, just relief. I wish I could say she's left me alone since then, but people like her don't go down quietly. A few weeks after the arrest, she tried sending letters, handwritten ones, slipped into my mailbox even though she was legally not allowed near my address. I gave them to my lawyer. More fuel for the case. She said the same things over and over. That I was cold, that I didn't remember what she did for me, that this was my chance to be a real son. But by then, her words didn't land anymore. They felt like echoes from a past life, a life I'd already left behind. I didn't even read most of the letters. I just kept the first one and sent the rest straight to the lawyer. Evidence. The last I heard, she'd moved back in with her sister, 2 states away. No one's seen her since. Now, I've started looking for a new place, somewhere quieter, bigger, a place that feels like a home, not a hideout. I still talk to my grandparents every week. I check in on my uncle too. He's still sorry about everything, but I've told him we're good. He meant well, and he gave me my shot at a future. That counts more than any mistake. As for the twins, I honestly don't know. I hope they're okay. I hope they're safe. But I'm not going to carry the weight of their mother's decisions anymore. I tried for years to earn my place in that house. They never made room. Now, I'm done asking for a seat at any table where I have to beg to be fed. I've built my own table, with my own hands, and I sit at it every day knowing I earned everything on it. No more ghosts, no more apologies for protecting my peace, and no more pretending I owe people anything just because we share blood. Family isn't who raises you out of obligation. It's who sees you, shows up, and stays.